Carlos Nelson with Cascade Media Group. And tonight we have one of my college colleagues, one of the first people that I met when I went to Central State University in Wilberforce, Ohio. He's from Dayton, Ohio, and he's a musician that has played with some of the top bands that come out of that region. And I was asking him to come on to talk about his career and yesterday. Uh, the different individuals. Uh, Without further ado, I'd like to welcome my classmate Harry McLoud. How you doing, Harry?
I'm doing great, Carlos. Doing great, man. Good to
Hey,
do this.
hey, Harry, cutting through all the chase. Tell my audience a little bit about yourself. Uh, First of all, go back to kindergarten, where you went to school, uh, high school, and what have you, and then talk about your history with music. How you sent me some pictures that, like I said, that brought me back uh,
I know you did.
to the '70s. Uh,
Yeah.
Give our audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I am in January the 3rd. I'll be 75 years old. So I've been around for a minute, and went to kindergarten, Dayton, Ohio. Had a pretty nice experience there. What's interesting about going to kindergarten back in the day is my wife is a school teacher, and the things she teaches kindergarten through third grade, and it's phenomenal the difference between what we went through as kindergartners compared to what these kids go through today. I'm talking about like every kid has got a laptop and they know how to use it. The whole thing about cursive writing is like, what is that? What is that? They don't even, they know nothing about that. And the attitudes that they have are amazing. Like my wife says, just to touch on this for a second, she will not teach fifth grade. And the fifth grade, the stories that she has about fifth grade sound like the kind of stories that high school teachers used to have when they would come home, from the gig. It's crazy. So anyway, went to kindergarten, lived, my parents, my mother, my father was a realtor. Uh, my mother was a school teacher, as a matter of fact. So what was unique was that in the third grade, we moved to another location. My family built a house, middle class blacks, and my mother started teaching at that point. And so what was different for me was riding to school with her every day as opposed to walking to school. And I did that. I was there from the fourth grade through the eighth grade, and you had to back some people up off you there for a minute. Thought he's like, maybe you was a little soft because you was riding to school with your mama, but that ended. I took care of that. And one thing that was interesting was that that's when I really found out that uh, I found an interest in music. And there was this, I don't know, in our school back then, you could, you could take music lessons. Your parents could either rent you an instrument or they could buy you one. Well, saxophone was there, but I didn't see myself putting my lips on nobody else's saxophone. So I said, well, that ain't gonna work. But then I saw a violin. And so I started taking violin lessons from them. And, I played a couple of tunes on it. That didn't really last too long, but that was my first introduction to a string instrument. So after that, my mother saw, she was really the primary one who was really interested in me. Although my father played clarinet, but he downplayed his musical past, whereas my mother really enhanced that gene in me. So anyway, back in the day, some of y'all might remember, you could go, when you went to the grocery store, when you got your receipt, they gave you stamps that you could like put in little books and you could like fill up so many books. All right. Okay, so after the violin lessons, like I say, I was in the fourth grade, like at about maybe Hmm, let's see. Wow. I'm trying to think of where I was back then. Because let's see, I was in high school from 14 to 18. So I guess usually 8 years before that, about 7, 8 years old, maybe about 10 years old, back in 1960, I guess is when I was taking those violin lessons. But anyway, my mom, after shopping for the family, groceries, she saved up enough books to get me a ukulele. And man, that four-string ukulele, I used to wear it out. I used to I used to play some some country singing, my old Kentucky home. These were the songs that was in the books, understand? But I was playing it. So anyway, that's so I did that for a while, and then there was a point in my life, maybe about a year after that, when I was about maybe about 1963, around 11, I took an interest in keyboards. And so my mom, with the same, with the little books, she got me like a little keyboard that you could sit in your lap. And I was jamming on that to the point where one of my partners who could sing, we used to do like little church programs. And I would bring out my little organ out of a grocery sack. That's the way I was transporting that bad boy. And he'd get up and start singing and, hey, go on, little boy, all that vibe. Okay. So then come to find out I could sing a little bit. So my first wife, who I met in the fourth grade, who lived in my neighborhood, I met her, like I said, in the fourth grade through the eighth grade, and graduated, from elementary school, 64. We sang in a group called the Triple Trio. It had three guys with, two tenors, one bass, three sopranos, and three altos. And we were pretty good to the point where we used to enter competitions downtown at Dayton, in Dayton, Ohio, Memorial Hall. And we used to get what they call A3 ratings. I mean, we were like making people cry because then, we could sing that well. So that's what let me know I was really into this music thing, because I could sing and play. All right. So during the summer of 1963 to 1964, our family, with probably like a lot of other families, they used to look at the Ed Sullivan Show. Sunday night, turn on Ed. I mean, that was the shiznit. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, people don't understand that are younger. When we start talking about the 60s, TV really was just coming in, and black people having TV
That's
was
right.
another horse of another color.
That's right, boy.
And,
You ain't, that's right now.
and everybody would gather around the TV.
That's right.
And one of the major reasons why I wanted you to talk about a few things is because you've been with a lot of the major stars. You sent me pictures with Funkadelic, George
George
Clinton.
Clinton, yep, yep,
You,
yep.
you sent me pictures with other musicians, and because you're out of Dayton, you sent me pictures with David Chappelle,
That's
uh,
right. That's
coming
right.
straight out of Yellow Springs, where our college and all of that. So I'm gonna let you go back to you coming into high school and
Okay.
you having that group and moving forward. When you bought back the grocery stamps, S&H.
That's it, man. I could never remember that, Los. That's exactly right. S&H green stamps.
Yeah, right. And
Man, you hit it
you
right on the head. You're right,
you
man. That's right.
you could get different things. And boy, another thing I'd like to say nowadays, people of color don't really encourage their kids to play instruments. Most of the time, uh, even if you didn't have no musical anything, if your parents had some means, they would be sending you to take piano lessons or violin lessons or something. And I think that came from uh, being raised in a Eurocentric culture, but you had a love for music.
I had a love for music, man. And just ironic that my father sort of suppressed that, but it was him playing clarinet that kept him out of the war because he used to, as a war as a participant in terms of fighting, but he was used to go around, they were on the bases playing with the bands and stuff, But anyway, so check this out. So, the Beatles came on TV for 3 straight Sundays
Ed
in
Sullivan.
on Ed Sullivan. And so, see, I used to play I used to play sports around the neighborhood, but I never was one to like play on the elementary basketball team and all that kind of stuff. I just had other interests. But when I saw Ed Sullivan and I saw them girls screaming, I told my mom and them, I said, look, now that's the kind of team I want to be on right there. That's the one I want to be on right there. Man, them girls. And plus they had me, the music had me. Believe me, that's when I went and got me a guitar. My mama got me a guitar. I went and got with your frat brother, Clarence Willis, because Clarence Willis used to cut everybody's hair back in the day. But when you go down to Clarence's house, you would always see a guitar in the corner. And I never asked about it, but come to find out, he played guitar in his father's gospel group, and he was the only instrument. So when he cut my hair one day, I said, man, I need you to show me something on the guitar. He showed me 3 songs, and because I had that ukulele experience, I picked up on it.
Right away?
So, yeah, right away. We started playing in groups, and then that's led to like getting little groups and everything in high school. And that's where a lot of these younger guys did come with some of these bands like Slade and Lakeside and a lot of the other groups that were there. They used to be in the audience watching us older musicians play at these talent shows. And they used to mimic
us. What about
us.
Roger Troutman?
Well, see, Roger lived in Hamilton, which is like between Dayton and Cincinnati. So I didn't actually meet Roger until I graduated from college. So when I met Roger, and see, when I graduated from college, this is, after I met you and everything, my father thought I was crazy because I got into a band right after I graduated from college. He said, you mean to say, you getting into a band instead of, getting you a job? I said, Daddy got his job. So anyway, I got with that band. One of the pictures I sent you was of the Overnite Low Show Band.
Right.
That's the one with me sitting kneeling in the center. That's when I met Roger, because Roger, we were so good. We had a Greyhound bus that we reconditioned.
I remember that now.
And look, we had the bus and all them younger groups like Slave and them, like one of the original members of Slave lives down here now in Fayetteville. He said, man, let me tell you, when we used to see y'all on that bus, we used to say, man, we're going to be like them one day.
Harry, I forgot all about that bus.
Yeah, man, we was rolling.
And I forgot this also. You remember we talked off camera and I said I remember seeing you in the breezeway and talking this and that. I really never realized that you were much older than me, and when you were coming back on the campus, you was coming on the campus for whatever, but you had graduated.
That's right. One of the pictures I sent you was a picture of us playing for a school dance. That's what one that you see. Right. Like, I think it's got the Sigma's little thing up, little paddles or whatever. But yeah, I came back on the yard with the Overnite Low. And you're right. That's when we came up on the bus.
Yeah, see, I'm trying to see, why wasn't I seeing him every day? No, you had graduated after I met you, and you would come back on the yard for different things, because all the time I would be like, hey, and you would say, hey, man, I got to go to practice.
That's the practice that you was talking about when we were talking earlier. Yeah, it's because I had to get back to Dayton to go to Overnite Low practice. That's the practice you was talking about.
Yeah, right.
That's right. I remember now. Man, we used to come up on the yard, and we opened up for Homecoming. We opened up for Earth, Wind. Man, we played for a lot of groups. Opened up for a lot of groups in Beacom Gym #2.
Run down some of the groups so that our audience know who you've opened up for and the years, because music, when you were playing, that influenced me, you had the Average White Band, you had a lot of white bands, like you said, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and blacks listened to all of that because there was no BET.
That's right, brother.
It was Ed Sullivan and it was American Bandstand. And if they didn't have you on, you wasn't getting too much airplay. You came around when all of the major artists that we revere, Earth, Wind and Fire, Isaac Hayes, and all, you came during that era and you played with a lot. Talk a little bit about that.
And look, you mentioned something that was key. Two major things happened. Well, three major things happened when I was enrolled in Central State from January 1960. What was that? Damn, what was that? I graduated 72, yeah. January 1975 to August 1972. I got out really in 3.5 years because the brother got a little bit on the noggin. But man,
5.
Look, let me tell you, I did not want to leave the yard. I was living in Yellow Springs. I was a black hippie, but that's a whole nother vibe. But anyway, the three things that happened is one of the bands that we was in, we opened up for Central State's homecoming one time, and Isaac Hayes had just released Hot Buttered Soul. And he came out, he was backstage with us, had on the chains and everything, you know. And I remember we played, we opened up, one of the songs we played was Sex Machine by Sly and the Family Stone. We rocked it then. And then one of the other things that happened was when I was in Yellow Springs, I got with this band called Brute Force. And they was like, really?
I remember them.
You remember them? You remember them, Carlos? Look.
Harry,
go ahead.
You remember when I called you, I said, Harry, I want you to talk about all these great bands that emanated right out that same area. And I forgot about Brute Force.
That's right, Brute Force, man. And look, this is when I was a freshman, Carlos. Let me tell you, when I was a freshman, I was playing with them during finals week. And we was opening up for Herbie Mann, the guy that plays the flute.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Hey, man, we played flute, and that's where I met Roy Ayers, because Roy Ayers was the keyboard player for Herbie Mann. That's where I first met him, man. And that was during finals week of my freshman year. And then, just had so many good times at Central, man, playing for them dances and everything. And, the way we used to hang and do stuff, man, it was some of the best time in my life.
The Overnite Low and how the Overnite Low son and Ohio players, what was the relationship per se with the musicians in those bands?
All right. With the Overnite Low, like I say, I got with them right after I graduated from college, and they was known as the farm team for the Ohio players. By that, every time the Ohio players needed to hire somebody, they would wave some money in front of one of the Overnite Low. It was gone. Okay. So listen, all while I was in college playing up on the yard with my bands up there, the Majestics, that was a high school band, had turned into the Overnite Low. So when I graduated from college, I joined a band that was already well established. They just added me on. That's where I met Roger, because Roger group used to be called Roger and the Human Body. And he used to play his guitar through a organ cabinet. Man, that boy was phenomenal.
I remember when you introduced me to him.
Oh, man, the boy was bad.
You said this man is just as good as Jim Hendrix.
That's right. That's
what you told me.
That's right. I sent you a picture of me looking like Jimi Hendrix. One of the pictures of it, I get. That's when I was with Faze-O. But anyway, so yeah, Diamond, the legendary drummer for the Players, he used to play drums for the Overnite Low, but he was gone before I got there. Marvin Pierce, who was on the front row as one of the legendary horn players, he was gone before I got there. But Diamond and Marvin are the ones who offered me and Clarence the jobs to go with the Ohio Players, because we had both become disgruntled with the way the Overnite Low was run. So when we left Overnite Low and got the Players, the Overnite Low a few months after that became Sun. So you had the Majestics, which turned into the Overnite Low, which turned into Sun.
And Sun had that Sunburst on their first album. I think that was their first album.
And they had Roger, and they got Roger to play some stuff on there, which is why they got a hit.
I didn't know that.
That's right, man. Roger Troutman is on there doing that talk box thing, I think.
See, I
So,
thought that Roger lived in Dayton because
mm-mm.
I didn't know him. You introduced, but years later when he became famous, when I would talk to people out of Dayton, they were saying that he had a construction company or something going on, and his brother,
They did a lot for the community, man. They did. It was awesome.
yeah,
When,
you know,
they got their bank and was rolling hard. See, it was about, man, Troutman's had like about 5 or 6 brothers. Larry and Lester and Roger
didn't know that.
was in the band. Larry is the one who killed Roger. He killed Roger right after Roger did that thing with Tupac in there because he figured, California, I can't think of the name.
I know what you're talking
You know what
about.
I'm talking about, though. It was the hit with Dr.
It's
Dre.
like, yeah, California rolling like that.
Yeah, California, whatever it was, man, it shocked us all when that boy, he killed Roger right in the back of the studio and drove about 3 blocks away and put a bullet through his own head, man. It was deep. But that's the way that whole thing.
I
That's the
didn't
rock
know
and
that
roll.
he killed himself also.
Oh yeah, he committed suicide. And check this out. From what I heard, I say this is folklore. But I went to their funeral. They had both of their funerals. Both of them there. And from what I understand, I had heard. Well, you know what? That rumor is so strong. I don't even want to say it. I'm sorry. I don't
Yeah,
want to say
why not? I'm saying, see, this is where history, and you remember when I said, Harry, I want you to come on because telling it as you know it. That might not be the case, but as you know it.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
it was just to take, like I say, they say Larry, it was just so jealous of Roger,
That's
man.
what I was hearing, and I don't know nothing about it.
Yeah. And see, Larry played the congas, and didn't sing, but Roger was obviously out front killing everybody. And so, but Larry also ran the band. Now, here's the thing: they had a nice, because they felt it was in construction. They built them up. They built themselves a hell of a studio. And Larry's nickname was Dollars. So whenever you went into Larry's office, his desk was always up on the platform, so you had to look up at it. Now I never I never went in there, but I heard about that. I said, boy, the egos was fine. But I'll say this: them brothers, that construction company, man, they did an urban renewal thing that has been unmatched in the city of Dayton today for some blacks helping blacks.
Yeah.
It was wonderful. He did. It was wonderful.
So what other let's go back now with you with Son.
I wasn't with Son. I was with the Players.
Yeah, well, who was with Son, and talk about how that band came about.
Okay, well, Byron Bird was the leader. Byron Bird was the leader of the group. He was also the leader of the Overnite Low. And Byron, I would have to say, was probably a genius. The way that he arranged our music, arranged our songs. He was the one who said, man, let's go ahead and get a bus. Whatever Byron said, let's do, we did it. One thing he did that was dynamic, when we were at our peak of performance, we did like a showcase in one of this little town up there by Cleveland, where in the audience were all college representatives that booked bands for colleges all over the country. And they watched maybe about 5 or 6 bands perform. And after each band performed, there were sign-up sheets that were on the board, and they would go up and sign their name there. Contact us, we want you to our school. Man, we must have had 100 names on that. That's why we really put a lot of miles in that bus, because we was doing a lot of traveling there. But as the Overnite Low, as Son contained some of the people that were, most of the people, I guess, that were in the Overnite Low, and they started adding people on. Now, one of the major people that was added on out of Cincinnati was a guy named Shelton Reynolds. And Shelton went on to be in Earth, Wind & Fire. Matter of fact, he used to sing all of Maurice White's parts, but he passed maybe just about 2 years ago. But he got his start in the Sun.
Talk
And
about Lakeside a little bit.
okay, all right. Well, Lakeside, one of the primary people in Lakeside is a guy named Stevie Shockley. Stevie is guitar whiz and everything, and he was one of the guys that was in the audience watching us perform at the talent shows. And he really took a liking to Clarence because Clarence was playing a white Stratocaster, and he got him a white Stratocaster. And Stevie went on to be one of the big writers for Soul Out Records. He wrote As the Beat Goes On. I mean, man, his wall is like gold and plat as one of the top writers for Soul Out Records, and that helped. And him being with him played a major part in Lakeside becoming one of the first acts that was on Soul Out Records.
This is what I want to know. See, I'm not familiar with Soul Out Records. You obviously are talking about producer or distributor.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was a major label on the West Coast. I mean, you've heard of the group Shalimar?
Yeah, well, I'm saying again, hearing and knowing the inside story, two different
Oh yeah.
things. You giving the inside story,
Oh
like
yeah.
I said, uh,
Yeah.
uh, people that are not that old don't know how the music industry operated, how James Brown had radio stations, how
Right.
all of these different things were happening, and you were a part of it. You know, it's not like you read in a book or you seen something on uh, a video, somebody saying you were right there. Now the question I wanted to know, so was Lakeside going on when I was in school in the 70s? Because I didn't hear about Lakeside until after I had left college.
You know what? That's a very good question, and I believe that they would because they are like let's see, if I'm 74, they probably about well they let's see, you're a couple years behind me. They're probably
I'm 73.
okay, they're probably about 8 years younger than us. And so you know how it is, Carlos. Just put it like this: when you was 18, you didn't know what 10-year-olds was doing.
Right, right, right.
You know, that's just the real deal. You know, it's like, believe when I was on the yard, man, I don't know what was happening in Dayton. It's just that I was in my own world with the music. I was moving. I was a mover and shaker. You know, I was doing things. So when I got with even when I got with the Overnite Low, which was in probably January 1973 as a 23-year-old, because I got with the Players 2 years after that in January. I really don't know when I started hearing about Lakeside, but they
Let
were
me
probably
ask you this.
well,
Let me say, put
had
this.
a record deal.
Let me put this in perspective.
Go
It
ahead.
just came into my thoughts. Uh, Hollis Queens put out all of the Run DMC, all of these hip hop people. I put Dayton in that same category. A bunch of black musicians and groups came out of specific areas.
That's right. That's
Uh,
right.
and when I think even Dayton, I think of Cincinnati because the Queen City was just like an hour away,
That's
and
right. That's right.
you got the Isley brothers and all of that coming out of a consolidated area where everyone knew everyone. Music in your era was really just coming alive.
It was man. It was like see when I was coming up, like in high school and stuff, man. Every something that used to always happen, which was an ordinary circumstance, was you to ride down almost any street and hear a band practicing in a garage with the door open. That was just something that always happened. So people was getting real good at that. So when the talent show things rolled around, you know you had Rolfe, Dunbar, and Roosevelt. Those were the three black high schools in Dayton. And Rolfe was known for their talent shows was like the Motown Review. I'm trying to tell you, it was serious. And I was with a couple of groups that actually won a couple of them talent shows. But the hype was so intense because it was always on a Friday night.
You
Man,
say the hype was
the
intense.
hype, the hype, hype. It was intense, man. I'm talking about because you know you had to see for a lot of us, man, you know, Friday night meant like oftentimes the football games, the stadium, the basketball stadium. You know, you didn't really hear too much about baseball. That was offered. But see, the band members had as much clout and notoriety or more
as the athletes. Oh, I took it out your mouth, didn't I? Yeah,
brother. That's going back to that Beatles thing I was telling you about. I said that's the kind of team I want to be on. I ain't got to get hurt,
baby.
I ain't got to get hurt. I ain't got to get cut. I ain't got to get knocked down. Huh? You know what I'm saying?
I love it, man.
Oh, man, it's real talk. It's real talk. So, you know, the Overnite, and check this out, Carlos. And here was a crucial point in my life, man. When the players needed a couple people, like I told you, they diamond grabbed on Clarence and my man Marvin grabbed on me. It was a pivotal thing for me because they said to me, well, Harry, we don't need two guitar players because, you know, Sugarfoot was there. And legendary. And Sugarfoot and Clarence was real close. I used to go over to Sugarfoot's crib with Clarence and watch the players play back in the day. It was like a show just watching them perform, man, because that's when they was on their way up. And right after that, that's when they started cutting Pain and all that other kind of stuff. It was classics. But anyway, they said, well, look, we don't need another guitar player, but we need somebody to take care of our dressing room. I said, dressing room? You mean like costumes and that kind of stuff? I said, man, thank you, but no thank you. I appreciate you. I went home, thought on that, and then Clarence said, man, I got with the band. You know where our first dates are? I said, where? He said, we're going on a European tour. We're going to Paris, the French Riviera, Madrid, Spain, Paris, France. I said, look, where do I take the uniforms to get clean? Yeah. So that's why I was telling you, man, I've done so many things in music, man. I've traveled around the world so many times in music, but it never was me with me playing the guitar. It was me doing something else for somebody, being serving. You see what I'm saying? Like me and you talked something about Quincy Jones the other day when we was talking. Well, I had a chance to meet Quincy Jones by being the road manager of a group called Dayton, because Dayton was touring on a hit called Hot Fun in the Summertime. Some of you old heads might remember that. It was a remake of Sly Stone. Summertime, man, they was killing it. And I was a road manager, and the group had the opportunity to open for Quincy Jones and his entourage at the Michigan State Fair. So obviously we all backstage in our trailers. And so when you backstage, you backstage. So Quincy was back there, Thunder Thumbs, James Austin, I can't think of just all of his people.
Who in the music industry or that has impressed you, left some type of impression on you?
Who in the music industry?
Yeah, in general. There's certain people that you have looked up to or that have value as it relates to your memories or what have you.
Well, I'll tell you just one guy that comes to mind, man. When I was with the Overnite Low, they had 2 roadies. And I had never met them before in my life. And those roadies went on to be great in my eyes. One of the guys passed on, but he passed on when he was the road manager for Ashford and Simpson up there in New York. And man, I used to go to his
What was his name?
Logan Anderson.
Logan is who I was talking about with the Doors, the Commodores.
He listen, now look, he was with the Commodores, but the other guy that I was getting ready to mention was also with the Commodores. That's Cecil Willingham. Cecil was the one who hired me with the Commodores, responsible for that platinum album I sent you a picture of.
This is brought to you by Kansas City Business Association, working to improve our community.